Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to the Netherlands once again, and we're actually going to have a taste of a beer from a town called Leiden, which is a very beautiful place about halfway between Amsterdam and Den Haag, and it's home to the Leiden University, which is the oldest university in the Netherlands. But this beer is from a company called Leidsch Bier, and this is the Leidsch Aaipiejee, which is an American style IPA, I'm led to believe. But I actually bought this beer from a shop in Leiden called De Bierwinkel, and it's a really good little shop. It's got a good selection of Dutch beers obviously, and some nice American stuff, Belgian and Scottish, and a whole host of things. A very good little beer shop, and Leiden is a really beautiful little town, so really worth visiting if you do find yourself visiting the Netherlands. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I will take you through a very brief history of the brewery. It will only be a minute or two because there wasn't actually too much information available on these guys, but if you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. The brewery website's in the video description for you below, along with a link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do from the Leidsch Bier in the near future. And if you just go into my channel and search Netherlands, you will actually get a list of all the Dutch beers that I've reviewed for you already too. But anyway, Leidsch Bier was founded by Jan Willem Fukink in 2003. However, he'd actually been homebrewing as a hobby really since about 2000. But the first official beer released from Leidsch Bier was the Slim Blonde in 2004, and this went down very well with Jan's friends and family, and it really kind of motivated him to follow through and get his brewery properly established. But this, the second beer that they produced was the Leidsch Dubbel, which was also a very nice beer apparently, and I think I tried this on tap actually in Leiden. But this beer was released in early 2007, and it was followed up in 2009 by the Leidsch Weizen. But Jan actually started brewing the Leidsch beers in a small shed of only 65 square meters, and apparently the shed was only big enough to hold a kind of small brewery, a small office and a small bathroom and kitchen as well. But they call this in Leiden the Leidsch Bier Onderdak, and I believe that this translates into English something along the lines of the Leidsch Beer Shed or the Leiden Beer Shelter, something along those lines. But it can be found in the Oostgeest area of the city, and the brew kit here is only a 40 litre capacity, but Jan also has a 0.2 hectolitre pilot brewery where he can experiment with all the new brews. And this brewery, this small shed in Leiden, was actually the first brewery in Leiden since the Sturmbierbrouwerij De Hoorn back in 1918. It closed back then, so this is almost 100 years since the last brewery in Leiden that these guys were established. So this small brewery still acts almost as a beer lab, but the larger production beers, such as for the Blonde and the Dubbel, and probably this guy as well, they're actually brewed at the Proefbrouwerij in Locriste Heifte near Ghent in Belgium. Of course, that's where a lot of breweries do their kind of they go and use the spare capacity at this brewery. It must be a huge big facility down there, so maybe something I need to go and have a look at. But Mikkeller and Toil and other breweries brew there, but these guys do as well, so should be a really interesting beer. So just to list again the beers you can get from Leidsch Bier, they have the Aaipiejee, which is this guy here, the Blonde, the Dubbel and the Weizen are their regular ones. And if you have a look at Rate Beer and beeradvocate.com, you can get a list of all the various kind of random beers and speciality ones that they've produced over the last little while. There's quite a good list of them there. But anyway, you can also find those beers actually on tap in a lot of the bars around Leiden, I should point out. But anyway, let's get on to the tasting of this guy itself. So this one is a 6.4% IPA. It has in the malt base, it has pale malts, Munich, Pils, Cara, and it's got some kind of gluten in it as well. I think it must be, I'm not sure if that means gluten free, but it's hopped with Cascade, Galena and Amarillo hops, 6.4% alcohol by volume, and it's got 72 bitterness units as well, so it should be a very nice beer. I'll just let you have a little quick look at the artwork on this one. It looks very, very nice. I'll just check that you are seeing this nicely, but you can see very nicely presented. The label on this apparently changed just a few years ago. It did used to have another label on it, but it's an India Pale Ale, and it says it's an American style one. It just says that here, and it is a plain bottle cap on the top of this too. But this should be a very, very nice beer. And let's get this guy open then, and we'll get on with the tasting. So as you can see, a nice sort of smoky opening on it there as I get it open. But it's one thing I've actually really enjoyed is doing these Dutch beers for you, because if you think about Belgium being next door and of course Germany, the Dutch beer is kind of a little bit it's just unheard of really to get Dutch beer really outside of the Netherlands, and it's such a shame because their beer, the craft beer that you can get from the Netherlands, is of such a good quality, but you just don't hear so much about it because obviously Germany's next door to the east and Belgium is to the south, so it's really hard to get a lot of the good smaller breweries to get a hold of a lot of their beer, but the quality is excellent, so do check out the Dutch craft beer if you go to the Netherlands. I often found the same with France as well. To get the French craft beer is very hard too, and it's a shame because these two countries both produce some very good beer. So as you can see, it's poured a nice kind of slightly reddish, it's a slightly reddish kind of dark orangey amber colour. There's a finger of a frothy white head on top of it there, and a lot of little bubbles of carbonation just rushing up towards the bottom of that head there, and it is hazy. If I put my fingers behind it, you can't really see it. It is slightly transparent, but it is mainly a hazy beer, but it looks very nice, and there is just a teeny bit of sediment at the bottom of it there, but a very attractive looking beer, a nice frothy head on it. So let's give it a smell and see how we get on here. So as you would expect from the Aaipiejee style, you're getting a lot of fruit off this one, but this one actually does have a kind of big malt base on it too. You can really smell the kind of heavier caramel malts and things on it. It smells really nice actually. Very attractive smelling beer, but you're getting some nice citrusy notes out of this. A kind of citrusy orange actually is kind of what's sticking out, but there is a bit of floral and aromatic character too. That's what you would expect from the Cascade hop, is a real kind of orangey and floral aromatic character, I would think. But there is a little bit of grapefruit, I think, coming out of it as well, a little bit of tropical fruit. And I think out of the hops that's in that, it's more likely the Galena that you're going to get some of the tropical fruits out of. But yeah, it's got a nice fruity smell, and when you pour it, you will actually just get a nice whiff of the esters and things. But a really nice smelling beer, and there is a kind of big malty base to this one. There's a good bit of caramel in there, and you can also pick up some of the bready characteristics too. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this beer. This is the Leidsch Aaipiejee from Leiden in the Netherlands, home of the oldest university in the Netherlands and also the oldest astronomy department in the world. Slange. That's really nice actually. A bit different from some of the other American IPAs I've come across before, but still equally as good. Yeah. It's quite interesting. They seem to have the balance between the hops very well on this. You've got a good amount of the kind of florally and aromatic hop, and they've got this really well balanced actually with the kind of nice tropically fruit flavours and orangey fruits. It is more of an orangey citrus, this one, which is, as I say, that's from the more of the Cascade hop actually. But it's a nice big juicy character to this one, but at the same time the kind of floral and aromatic-y dryness is kind of driving right under that. It kind of promotes the juicy character in an interesting way actually on the palate. So yeah, you've got a nice kind of bready blanket, just kind of blankets the middle of your palate there. Very nice light bready blanket actually, and then on top of that you've got a sort of caramel sweetness just goes down the middle of the tongue there, and it is perhaps more of a biscuity sweetness actually, but there is an element of kind of nice kind of brown sugary sweetness to the middle of the palate here. But the hop is quite subdued in comparison to the hop character in this beer, which of course is exactly what you would expect from an IPA, especially an American style IPA. But yeah, around the edge of the tongue you get this really juicy character. It is more of an orangey citrus that's coming out of this, but there is a nice element of grassy and sort of floral aromatic character in this beer as well. You'll feel just this little oily bubble move towards the front of your tongue, and you're getting a nice kind of orangey juicy character in that. You'll just feel this little oily feel come towards the very front of your tongue, but around the front edges you're getting that kind of real more sharper, maybe slightly lemony citrus. And a little bit of grapefruit in there actually. You can pick up just a little bit of that sour sort of grapefruit tropical flavour in there, but around the front of the kind of curve of the tongue you are getting a sort of florally aromatic-y hop dryness, and as you move further back that sort of aromatic character gets a bit more prominent, particularly on the back sort of corners of the palate there. So overall the flavours in this beer blend together really well. It does feel like quite a juicy IPA, as I say. The sort of orangey flavours are quite prominent, but underneath that the kind of floral and aromatic flavours really do kind of punch out from underneath, and it makes the beer just seem a little bit more juicy. So it's a really interesting kind of flavour that you're getting from this one, I would say. But it's beautifully done, I have to say. A very, very nice American style IPA. I'd be really interested to try it on tap, because usually when you try these beers on tap they're even more juicy, but at the same time you usually get a little bit more of a kind of caramel malt flavour out of them. So it would be really interesting if I'd seen this one on tap to try it. So I'll need to do that the next time I go to Leiden. But it's a mid-bodied beer. It's got a nice smooth carbonation, but you've got a nice kind of sweet malty character in it. But like I say, there is a big juicy component to the mouthfeel of this one. Yeah. The carbonation's interesting because it comes in and it promotes the kind of dry, florally aromatic, bitter flavours, but at the same time it does push the juiciness of the beer up. So there's some really kind of interesting and quite unusual things going on in this, but the flavours are very, very beautiful. So nice mid-bodied beer, smoothish carbonation, big kind of sweet malty character in there, but not too prominent. The hops are the most prominent component of the beer, but a really nice juicy fruitiness is what makes this beer quite unique, and then you've got a good kind of florally aromatic bitter character underneath it as well. So it's a really, really interesting beer, and yet again it proves my point that the Dutch are producing some really excellent craft beers. So it's been really cool to review another Dutch beer for you on the channel, especially one from Leiden, where I'm looking at doing my PhD in the future perhaps. So I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Please let me know in the comments section your own beer if you do happen to have tried it before, and in the meantime please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I do have one or two more Dutch beers from my stockpile that I brought back, and I'll review those for you soon, but hopefully I can get a hold of more Dutch beers in the fairly near future beyond that. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you soon. Slàinte.